Retail workers of Reddit, what's your Black Friday horror story? Store is absolutely ducking packed, and a larger, trailer trash looking woman gets up to the register with 4 coffee machines, about 30 different pieces of clothing, clearly none of which would fit her, a set of pots and pans, and a blender. I'm at the register serving a line of, at this point, probably 20 people. She gets to my register, and I ring everything up. Total comes out to about $200, because most of the crap she's getting is cheaper that we sell even cheaper on Black Friday. Of course, as soon as I tell her the total, I'm wrong. So is the register. Apparently, you double scanned most of it. It should be half the price. Hell no I didn't, lady. Learn to count. Duck, I wish I could say that to her, but my manager is literally right behind me on the other register, and would chew me out like no tomorrow. So, in my nicest, most sarcastic tone of voice, I reply, I don't believe I did. You can even see it right here on the register. If you really want me to, I can start over to make sure nothing scanned more than once. Though, of course, she ignores the whole damn thing and just tries to pay. She's clearly not been to the store before, because our old as duck register system requires us to take your card and swipe it ourselves. She spends a few seconds looking around for where she can scan her card, and I chime in, we have to scan it up here. System is too old for us to have something where you scan the card. I'm so sorry about that. She's already pissed enough and trying to fight with me about her scanning it herself. Finally, after spitting in my face for a few seconds while I'm forced to smile like the brain dead monkey corporate thinks I am, she hands me the damned card. I check the name because legally we have to, and we have to see ID as well. Well, I see the card and immediately expect to itch out because the first name on it is David. She hands me her ID, and lo and behold, her name ain't David. I'm sorry mom, I can't legally charge this card, unless David is with you, in which case I'd need to see his ID. Are you ducking kidding me? This is my son's card. He's letting me use IT. He's at home with my husband. Duck me, as if it wasn't bad enough already. I'm sorry, I can't swipe this card unless it's yours. Do you have a different card on you with your name on it? After grumbling for a bit, cunty Mickage face hands over a different card. Go through the normal motions. Card ducking declined. Duck, how can this get any worse? Your card was declined. Mom. Cue me getting screamed at in front of an ever-growing, impatient live audience. Let me talk to your ducking manager. At this point, I can only pray that hell itself will swallow this demon up, or at least end me so I don't have to deal with it. My manager turns around from her register, says just a moment. Mom, I'm finishing up this transaction, then I'll be right with you. Of course, this little old lady ain't got the time for that. At this point, I'm pretty sure my line at the register should be paying me for the entertainment they get out of this lady unloading all of her battit on me. My manager finally turns around and has me switch to her register for the time being. While she handles the crazy, I manage to get a few people through the register while I hear screaming coming from both sides. As my manager isn't great with being yelled at, how the duck did anyone think that was a good idea? I get a few comments and looks from customers basically saying I'm so sorry, we're not all terrible. Finally, I hear cunty Mickage face over there yell that she'll put all her egg back and go shop somewhere else. Thank duck. Turns out that's not what she did. Instead, she ended up going to the exit on the other side of our department and trying to walk out with everything in the cart. My manager sees this and calls LP, and so does the cashier on the register down there. LP sends some of their guys over to her, and they try and stop her after calling the police. Now, I didn't get to leave the register because we were ducking packed, but I was told she tried to fight a few of the people from LP before the cops got there. Ended up with her getting arrested. The rest of my day sucked anyway, but that made it a bit better. I am not an employee, but I stood behind a lady at Target who was returning a newly bought iPad. She was livid because her iPad wasn't charging. She claimed that the tablet had Wi-Fi connection to the store and it wasn't charging like it was supposed to. She was told that the cord came with it was the only way to charge it. She balked at the statement and adamantly said that since it's hooked up to Target's free Wi-Fi it should be charging. Sadly this is not the case and left spot not obscenities. Sad to think she thought Wi-Fi charged her iPad. Worked at a store that had a service department. They couldn't ring up anything at the service counter but they had a computer which made it look like a register. Guy is standing there patiently waiting to be rung up. Finally somebody notices him and asks what he needs. "I'd like to pay," he says. "I'm sorry, this isn't a register," replies the service tech. The guy then proceeds to try and convince the service tech to let him pay because the line for the main registers is 3 hours long. Of course the service tech couldn't because he didn't have a register. He just had a computer for making appointments and such. So after 15 minutes of argument the guy moves off to find the line. Here's the fun part. While he was arguing somebody else saw him standing by something that looked like a register and so got in line behind him. Then people saw the shorter line and got in behind them. With nobody to control it the line to nowhere grew quickly. 15 minutes was all it took for the knot line to snake all the way around the department. So when the doofus who started this whole fiasco went to find the right line he found the end of the line he had started. Then the guy behind him heard that there wasn't a register so he followed the first guy. Then the next customer followed the second and so on. They walked around in a circle for an hour before somebody noticed them. We almost had a riot when a manager had to tell 100 people that they weren't in line and had just waited an hour for nothing. That same year we had several scuffles at points where the register line had forked into 2 lines. From then on we marked off a huge register path and had several employees just manage the line. About 15 years ago, I was working at a bookstore in a mall. Somehow, around 5 PM maybe, I found myself the only employee in the entire store, not a single co-worker to be found, and we were slammed with customers. We usually had music playing in the store, controlled by an ordinary 5 CD stereo in the back office. And of course this is the day the inoffensive holiday music gets brought into circulation. Around the time I found myself alone, I noticed the stereo had become stuck on repeat, just playing the same song over and over. It was at least an hour before I was able to get away from the counter. And so that was the day I was forced to listen to some kind of generic very jazzy jinglables some 30 times back to back. I worked for a golf superstore as a cashier. Black Friday customers come rushing in and the line starts. I proceed to scan the first item and nothing. The registers are completely down and the lines are growing fast. The only thing we could do is take every transaction manually, write down SKUs, calculate tax, and use the old credit card swipers for 3 hours. I never worked retail during Black Friday again. Until a customer who took a written 1-letter FNF my fitting rooms and then wiped her ass with a $125 Polo Ralph Lauren dough hat. Nothing more needs to be said. Just today I sold a couch to a guy who drove a Prius with no roof rack. We do not deliver and he wouldn't leave until we found a way to get this thing secured to his car somehow. Not only had he clearly not planned ahead or thought it through, he was a total jerk about it and insisted on making it our problem. We ended up using half a spool of twine to tie this thing down and he had to climb in through the window because the twine went through his doors. I really wish I had taken a picture. At one point he complained to our GM, who had no idea what we were supposed to have done to appease this moron. Finally, we insisted that he sign a waiver before leaving because we were not about to be held responsible for his own stupidity. Of course, this was also during the busiest part of the day. I don't mind helping load or tie down for customers, but this guy took the cake. I worked at Toys R Us some years ago. No standout bad customers. But it surprised me how many parents brought their young children out at 3 AM and then got mad and would yell at their children for whining crying because you can't get any toys. Christmas is next month. Ask Santa. Your kid is exhausted and you dragged them to a toy store. Of course they are gonna be pissed off. Working there really changed my perspective from being annoyed at itty kids in public to being annoyed at itty parents. I saw someone get the crap beaten out of them for the toy of the year, a Hatchimal. When I worked at Best Buy I watched 2 elderly ladies get in a fist fight over a Nintendo DS. That and the cleaning the aftermath of Black Friday. Looked like a grocery store before a hurricane. Worked greets at American Eagle today. My job was to stand at the front and tell you what the sale was. Some lady walked in with like 8 bags and the alarm went off. So I smiled and said that it went off most likely because there's possibly still a tag on one of her items. This was her response. I just walked in and you're already accusing Emmy of stealing? And then stormed off. Nothing special honestly. Just another day of retail. Yeah. Small Canadian town life. I worked at a grocery store in high school. Black Friday was my favorite day all year. Hardly anyone goes food shopping the day after Thanksgiving. Duck it. Too many horror stories. I'm gonna give you my last customer from today. I am a service advisor at a very large Toyota dealership. My typical Q-top was rolling around. I usually stop writing cars an hour before my shift ends, but I got a car that came in for a wheel rotation. Wrote it up and immediately got it into the shop. My techs knocked it out lickety-split and I got it over to the wash. I was bored and wanted it done right, and washed it myself. I even vacuumed the car. Drove the car up to the drive-out section. Called the customer and turned in the paperwork to be closed out. Asked my boss for some of the Knott's Berry Farms tickets that all Toyota dealerships in Sokol are handing out. And when he came to grab his car I let him know that I was able to wrangle some Knott's tickets for him. His face lit up like Christmas. Hope he has a great holiday season. I worked at Walmart during Black Friday about 12-13 years ago. The hot items that year were $10 DVD players and trampolines. The DVD players were stacked on 2 tables near the registers and the trampolines were in sporting goods. I'm walking to the receiving area in the back and someone from sporting goods asks if I can grab a U-boat or L-cart to load up the last trampoline. I had to go all the way to grocery to get one, and as I'm coming back, someone asks about an item, so I walk 2 feet away from my cart and some woman grabs it and runs towards sporting goods. I get there and the woman and husband are loading up the trampoline and it wasn't even for them. The other lady that had it and purchased it had receipt and all. Just needed a carry out. Said hey, that's mine, and the husband got in her face and said what are you gonna do about it, bitch? They started to walk off and I was shocked at that point, and the husband looked at me and said the duck's your problem? I just smiled and told the sporting good guy to call management. The husband then said run, honey, and they booked it to the front. They made it out of the store with a trampoline too. Then I get to the front near the $10 DVD players. One older woman grabs the last one left on one of the 2 tables. Another lady grabs the same one. They scuffle. One lady decks the other one into the other table full of $10 DVD players and they all fall over and she runs. Never ducking again. When I was 15 I got my first actual job. It was at a clothing store and my first day was Black Friday. I thought it wouldn't be a big deal because I was hired for men's formal wear. When I show up at 4 AM, the manager tells me I'm working women's shoes today only. Absolute madness. The worst part is shoes salesmen get commission, but since I didn't have employee numbers I got only minimum wage, losing out of hundreds of dollars extra pay. Worked at Walmart years ago. One of my managers thought she was being sneaky and swapped my Black Friday off shift with an on at 9 AM. My shifts normally didn't start until 1 and ended at 9. So this was utter bullet. I was in the bakery department and had to work all of Thanksgiving the day before, and they ended up needing more help. I came in at 6 AM that day and worked a 14-hour shift because most of my team had been given the holiday off. My manager's excuse being you're young. They have families they need to be with and kids to celebrate with. So I was pretty angry. I found out that the Black Friday sale was a 65 inches LCD TV and electronics and PS3s. So needless to say it was going to be a bloodbath. I stayed in my department because there was literally no one else there and caught up on much needed sanitation. When the manager found out before the sale started she came my way to rain down fire, brimstone, and bullet on me. Thankfully, I could use their own bullet policies against them. There needs to be at least one member of the bakery crew on hand to write on cakes, and since I was the only one there, they were it out of luck. I got out of Black Friday bullet, got an easy day of work, and a perfect spot to watch the chaos all while screwing over a manager I hated. It was a beautiful day. My Black Friday 2 years ago was just the opposite of crazy. I used to work in a grocery store, so it was absolutely dead the whole shift. I have never been so utterly and thoroughly bored before or since. I would have killed for some crazy it to happen just so I could have a chuckle about it the next day. It was technically the day after Black Friday, but it was still busy as all hell. I worked as a customer service supervisor at a CompuServe before they closed down. Think Best Buy. And all of my checkers called in sick that morning. All of them. So I am the only ducking one ringing people up for the first like 6 hours of the day. When I finally got a 15-minute break, I went into the back area and blew up at the first manager I could find. I was so pissed and stressed. He just sat there and let me vent to him. After a little while I went back to him and apologized to him. And he was cool with it all. That day sucked. This happened just today actually. I work at Starbucks. Went to do my routine lobby and bathroom check. Just to clean up during the craziness. Went into the men's restroom and there was it smeared all over the walls. Toilet seat and mirror. Really had no other choice but to clean it up with my coworker. Definitely the most disgusting it, literally, I've ever had to do in my life. Update. While this blew up. So I talked to my manager and showed her this exact post. Reading a bunch of the replies. She wasn't mad, but in a sensible that we were willing to clean up it. Even she said she would never ever do that. We went over the policy and reviewed our resources in case this happens. There gets a point where your mind is literally go from the craziness of customers and orders. The poop didn't seem to faze me at all. I'm still baffled at who wipes poop on the walls at a Starbucks. I don't think we pissed off anyone that bad. The good news is that my boss said she's so thankful to have me and all that good stuff. But yes, we do have a number to contact in case someone decides to smear their fesses everywhere. In the meantime we are supposed to just lock the door and put a sign on the front. Thank you everyone for helping me out. I did not expect the load of replies. I now know not to clean up the poop. I feel stupid for doing it but I'm glad I now know. I work at a kid's store where almost everything was half off today. But the thing is I normally help moms and grandparents at the register. So I don't see Best Buy style murder over televisions. I get old ladies yelling at my co-workers over the price of smiley face pillows and women bringing in hundreds of dollars worth of clothing and kiddie makeup they bought weeks before at full price. Just to buy it all back right away at sale price after the return's over. A grandpa shouted this is bullshit at me because I told him we were out of bathrobes. Good times. Edit. Reading all these replies has taught me that the store I work in has a completely trash return policy. We do all our returns right then and there in front of the customer's face. Sometimes without receipts. And I have to get the manager to come look at every return before I do it at the register. So there's no way for me to lie to them to make them leave. Sigh. Last year my store had some seasonal cashiers start on Thanksgiving Black Friday and within the first hour of his first shift some idiot tried to steal cash out of his drawer and stuff it in his apron. Our AP guy simply walked out his office and escorted him off the floor until the police arrived without the customers noticing. I work at the largest lingerie retailer in the country. We had a security guard last night for the beginning of Black Friday. A Southern Belle mother decided she didn't want to wait in a 50-person deep line and she would cut. Our security guard asked her multiple times to step to the back of the line or leave. She proceeded to ream him with every curse word in the book and ended by threatening him with a gun she had in her bag. This will be my last holiday in retail. Be me. Working my first job. Second weekend and I'm working the floor at a Best Buy on Black Friday. I wasn't that great at my job. So they had me running people from the line they had set up to different registers and quickly answering questions from customers. No big deal. At about 1 AM as I'm running customers back and forth we hear a commotion on the other side of the store and a few police officers come in. Turns out some guy had broken a bit of plastic off one of the information plaques and tried to use the pointy bit to stab an employee in the neck. I never found out why he did it. People are crazy. I am so incredibly thankful not to be working retail anymore. I've worked quite a few Black Fridays, but the worst had to be Radio Shack. It was my first day, and I had no training. All I could do is point and hope to God they didn't ask me questions. I work at a gas station, so I'm somewhat immune to Black Friday-itis. The worst we got this morning was cars lined up to get gas. On the other hand, we had a few Walmart workers come in, and they looked like they just came back from the war. Both of them had ladies ram their carts into their legs to get at the merch. The guy said it was just a flurry of shredded plastic and hands when they kicked off the sales. Nobody got a full break, and the catered food was cold and well picked over by the time they could break. A car had sideswiped another car, damaging the paint pretty bad, and tried to drive off. On top of all, they're not getting time and a half for working Thursday night into Friday morning. Cause it's not technically a holiday anymore. At least he got a homemade cupcake. I brought in cupcakes for the ladies working Thanksgiving at my job. Edit. I had that Walmart employee as a customer again today. He told my boss and I about how one of his co-workers was practically trampled. She's a petite little thing, and got tripped, accidentally this time. Not on purpose like the cart rammers, by one customer. Fell down, and had several more walk on over her. She's okay, she's just sore and has bruising all over her legs. He seriously thought he was bulleting us at first on this story, but he was dead serious. When I was working at Walmart, me and another co-worker had a lady come during our Black Thursday sale with her children. She was going around shopping with her kids for a while, but then she saw me and my co-worker in the bedding department, and left her children with us, asking for us to watch them while she went to get some products. Before we were able to tell her no, she disappears and doesn't come back for her kids for 20 minutes. Both of us are just standing there, watching her kids slowly freak out and cry for their mother, wondering if she is going to come back. My supervisor then walks by and sees what's going on, and when we filled her in, she was quite annoyed with the mother, who by this point has yet to make an appearance. When mom finally showed, her children rushed to her, and my supervisor had a chat with her. Unfortunately, I didn't catch what my supervisor said to her. About 6 years ago I was working at a mall bookstore's cafe. I had the opening shift, which, thankfully because it was in a mall, was 8 AM to 2 PM. Unfortunately, the late shift person called in sick, so I had 2 hours off before a 4 PM close shift. While that sucks, it wasn't the worst part of the day. I actually had a customer who was stalking me and spent the entire day sitting in the cafe reading a book and occasionally coming up to order something new. Anytime I wasn't behind the counter or in the back room he followed me around, including during my 2 hours shift gap. I didn't dare go to my car on my break, because I didn't want him knowing what it looked like, and my manager didn't want to call security on him if he didn't actually approach me. Worst Black Friday ever. Luckily, 2 weeks later he did approach me while I was working and asked if he could clip my fingernails as a keepsake. That was enough to get him banned from not only the store, but also the mall. My manager also made sure someone walked me to my car for the next few months, so it was all good. I'm working in a high-end clothing store that rarely goes on sale. It's a small storefront, so any more than 20 people inside and it's pretty packed. It's ducking 9:30 in the morning, and this family comes in with 2 kids who were ducking wired on sugar, running around, acting like idiots, and the parents are doing duck all because their favorite Doucher bag jeans are 40% off. The store has a bunch of metal pots and baskets used for display, which we couldn't put in the back because corporate would throw a fit. Ducking little Timmy almost dies by near falling on a large metal basket with sharp pokey things on it. My manager, in a calm but obviously annoyed tone, says, "Kids, it's not a playground." This led Sally's soccer mom to lose it. "How dare you talk to my kids like that? Who the duck do you think you are?" This naturally cues her husband to become Billy Badass and try to fight my manager, who is all of 5'6" and maybe 130 pounds soaking wet. I walk over, being 6 foot and 190 pounds and slightly more able to defend myself from Billy Badass, and ask them to leave the store or I'll call security. Get told to duck myself because they aren't leaving, so I better call the pansy ass mall security. Mall security shows up, and by the grace of the Black Friday retail gods, the one security officer who is actually intimidating responds. Former university football player, like 6'6" and built like a brick house. Billy Badass suddenly no longer wishes to engage in fisticuffs with the pansy ass mall security and quickly leaves with his family with security in tow. I don't think it was on Black Friday, but I was working for Payless Show Source at the time and Oprah had some sort of coupon thing on her show for 50% off. Our store was pretty small, and it was completely packed. We didn't usually do very much business, so we're out of the door at 9-10 p.m. every night. We didn't get home until 1 in the morning. The store was destroyed. We couldn't do any store maintenance during the 5-6 hours rush, so I'm amazed that some people could even find their products. At Staples, I watched two grown men get into a brawling fist fight over a $30 label maker, it wasn't even the last one. Mine is the anti-story. I went to work today at a big grocery store. My job is to shop people's groceries. We normally do 40 orders in a work day. Today we had maybe 5. The store was deserted too. The cashiers were just standing around waiting for customers. This year was surprisingly tame. People were all in really good moods, which in turn makes me happy. Last year a woman yelled at me for taking too much time to finish her transaction. That her kids were in the car and she didn't want CPS to take them. Okay then. I insisted that I did not work at the store to 2 different customers. I used to work at Walmart during the late 90s. I worked overnights unloading trucks. And back then the store I worked at didn't have mechanized lifts to get stuff up into the bins in the back. So stock reserved for the blitz sale was all thrown up there by hand. Anyways, 3 hours to go, we had to get 3 pallets worth of 19-inch Symphonic CRT TVS down. My coworker, Alan, didn't want to throw them down one at a time. So he pushed a pallet of Pampers down first, followed by all 3 pallets of TVS. Over the next few days several of those TVS came back as returns. I try to think that they were crap, but also wonder how many were damaged during the fall. Definitely the woman who came out of the dressing room to tell us that a pipe must have broken. Upon checking said pipe we merely found that she had peed in the corner of the dressing room. Water doesn't smell like urine. Actually work asset protection for a large retail chain. And worked 17 hours straight from Thursday until today. Among other things, the worst thing to happen on my shift was that every single person was receipt checked at the exit. The sheer amount of curses and yelling about racism, gender discrimination, etc. was absolutely awful. I got hired at Borders to be seasonal help from November through the holidays. It was the location on Michigan Ave in downtown Chicago and was the flagship store for the company. Had a couple of weeks of regular work right before Black Friday and it was pretty busy then, and I thought Black Friday would be easy. I was so wrong. I had never had such a stressful experience. We had a constant line of about 30 people the entire day, and no matter how fast we tried to go it would never die down. On top of that we had people getting mad that were sold out of certain books and would flip out even more when I offered to order one for them. I mean, you would expect these kinds of things at Walmart. But I never thought I would working for a bookstore. Worked at a car wash in college. We're busier than a one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest. But we're keeping up. Then, an Ashat comes in with a minivan. Now, this alone would merit a fine story in and of itself. But here, we get to the good bad part. Puke all over his dashboard. By which I mean puke of mythological biblical proportion. Apparently, the guy out selling the car washes was too busy to notice said puke and put him in line. So, the guy makes it to us at the vax. I see the puke on the dashboard as I start to slide open the rear door, and that's when I see it. We're talking an honest to god pond of puke in the back. Turkey, stuffing, pumpkin pie, grandma's own whipped potatoes and gravy. Sidashat says, Uncle Ned had too much to drink yesterday, so my brother offered to drive him home. Uncle Ned up chucks first. That's when my niece lost it in the back seat. 2. He smiles. Do you think you're going to be able to get it up? Now, mind you, if we were slow we wouldn't do it. But to pull shenanigans of this caliber when we're this busy, I'm about to go full ape and start clubbing him with my vac nozzle when my quick thinking partner on vac steps in and says, sorry, sir, our union contract prohibits us from removing biological waste. Slams the door shut and sends the car down the conveyor. The guy stands there slack-jawed and stammers out, I didn't even know car washes had unions. We do today. He grins and walks away. I saw an incident involving an extremely racist, Obese woman on one of those carts that are normally reserved for the disabled. When the doors of our store opened at 12 AM, she was on her cart, in the back of the crowd. There was a bottleneck to get into our store, so the lady started plowing into people. Luckily, a black man grabbed the back of her cart and lifted it up to prevent her from injuring anyone. When the lady turned around to see what was stopping her from driving, she exclaimed, "Help! This nigger is trying to steal my cart." Then the black man shouted, "Shut up, B. You ain't even handicapped." The lady tried to turn around and hit him with her purse, but she lost her balance and fell out onto the ground. As she shouted for someone to help her get up, people just laughed at her and walked around her. Not sure what happened after that because I had to help other customers.